안녕하세요. Hello, my name is Asher, and in this video today I'm going to talk about 5 things that Korea has that I really like that I wish I had in my country, New Zealand. So one of the really great things about Korea is just how convenient the place is. You can get almost anything you need at almost any hour and almost instantly and whenever you want it. So the first thing on my list actually is just the convenience stores. Obviously they have convenience stores on almost every corner, on almost every street, and at these convenience stores you can buy pretty much anything you need. You can also buy alcohol, which is something that the convenience stores in New Zealand, which we call dairies, don't sell. The only place you can buy alcohol is from liquor stores, and you have to have an ID proving that you're older than 18. But in Korea, you can buy alcohol at the convenience store, and they never ask you for ID, which is awesome because if you forget your ID or forget your wallet or something, then you can't actually buy alcohol in New Zealand. So at these convenience stores, they're open any hour. They're open 24 hours, and whenever you need something like medical supplies, drinks, food, snacks, whatever you need, you can go and get it. In New Zealand, at the dairies, they only sell like basic products, usually just simple food items, maybe a few like toiletry items, and that's about it. It's basically just a really, really small supermarket just for selling small groceries and things. And they're very spread out. They're a bit harder to find. It's not like Korea where you have a convenience store on every corner. Having those convenient stores just readily available and almost anywhere is just something that I'm going to totally miss when I leave Korea, and something that I wish we had in New Zealand. The second thing on my list is a driving service that they call 대리운전. This is basically a driving service in Korea for people who might go out for an evening. First, they'll drive their car to wherever they're going, have a few drinks, and then they're able to call this driving service and they'll send someone out to your location and they can drive your car home for you, obviously with you inside. This service is just so awesome because sometimes you don't plan to drink, and you might be out and decide it's a good idea to have some drinks with family, and that can complicate getting home. You need to make sure you have a sober driver so that you can get home safely. But with this 대리운전 service, it doesn't matter. You can have a few drinks, even have too many drinks and get a bit drunk, and just call the 대리운전 and they'll come and drive you home. Maybe we have the service in New Zealand now, but when I was living in New Zealand, I'd never heard of it. And I just thought it was such an awesome idea. And I've used it a few times myself, taking the family out somewhere, going on a day trip, and then having a few drinks with dinner. It can be a little bit expensive if you're driving a long distance, but it's just such a dependable service to have, and such a great service to have when you end up having a few drinks when you didn't plan to. The third thing on my list, and this is more important to my wife than it is to me, but it's something that she just thinks is really, really important, is that school lunches in Korea are provided by the school, and they're really good, usually really healthy school lunches. It sounds like such a basic thing, but in New Zealand, we don't have this at our schools. You have to pack your own lunch, so the parents have to wake up early and make the lunches for their children and send the lunches to school with their children every day. It sounds, like I said, it sounds like a small thing and not something to really get stressed about, but it's actually quite a lot of work when you have to get up every day and worry about preparing a nice lunch for your kids, because you don't want to give them something that they're not gonna like, and you want to make sure that they're eating healthy and they've got the right kind of foods and they're not just eating junk food. So you want to make sure that they actually have a good lunch every day. And if you've got quite a few kids, that's like 2, 3, 4 lunches that you have to prepare. So it might not sound like a big deal, but when you have to prepare lunches every day for your children, it can get quite tiresome. I actually eat the school lunches at the school that I work at here in Korea, and they're really good, really healthy. It's really good for me not having to prepare my own lunch either, so it's something that I wish I had for my kids in New Zealand. So number 4 on my list is delivery services. So Korea has a huge variety of different delivery services, and the service is just amazing. There's a company called Kopang, and if you order something that evening, it'll arrive the next morning at like 6 or 7. It's really just amazing. They'll deliver it to you, within 12 hours. You can order almost any kind of food that you want. You can order almost at any hour. Actually, I think like most food delivery services will deliver food to you at any hour. So I don't know, maybe you've had a late night and you want to order some food to your house, you can do that, and they'll send somebody out and have the food at your door within 30 minutes or so. In New Zealand, you're usually limited to the typical delivery food items like pizza and stuff like that. It might have increased since I've been living in Korea, but in New Zealand, the range of things that you can have delivered to your house is just amazing, and how speedy it arrives to you is just something that I was so impressed by. So I think that's something that New Zealanders would really benefit from, having this really amazing home delivery service. It's just nowhere near as good as it is here in Korea. So that's something I wish we had. So the fifth and final thing on my list is actually taxis. Obviously, anywhere you go in the world, you can get a taxi. That's no big deal and nothing special. But in New Zealand, taxis are super expensive, and it's only the rich people who use them, or if you're in a real emergency and you need to get somewhere suddenly, then maybe you'll get a taxi. But generally, people don't tend to use taxis in New Zealand just because they're so expensive. In Korea, taxis are really affordable. They're super cheap, actually. I used to use taxis fairly often in Korea before I got my own car. And if you're with a bunch of people and you get a taxi and split the taxi fee, it's not that expensive at all. There's just so many taxis all over the place. You know, you can just wave down a taxi or call a taxi from wherever you are. The amount of times I've gone downstairs on a cold winter's morning and tried to start up the car for work and the battery has just been dead on me, having those taxis just so freely available has stopped me from being late to work on so many occasions. Yeah, it's annoying sometimes having to get a taxi when I could have just driven to work, but it's so cheap that it doesn't even matter. If that happened to me in New Zealand, it would end up costing like 30 or 40 bucks just to get a taxi, like, I don't know, a kilometer or something down the road. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's really, really helpful and convenient having alternative to transportation like the subway or taking the bus. Obviously, taxis are just more direct and you can get to wherever you want to go really quickly, and it's not going to, cost you too much. I was really amazed how many people will just take taxis to get places in Korea. It's something that nobody does in New Zealand. So I wish in New Zealand we had affordable taxis that people could use more often, and it wasn't just something that the wealthier people could use. So these are just 5 things that I really love about Korea that have just made my life so much easier while living here. I wish I could take these things to New Zealand and experience these things with New Zealanders so that they could see what they're missing out on. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, drop a like, leave a comment, whatever you want, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.